Somewhere recently, I was reading in one of Aj's books a Zen story that he recounted. Might have been Falling into Grace, I'm not sure. But he was recounting a Zen story about a enthusiastic young practitioner, I'll say, who was going into the Zen teacher and was all ready to. I hope my memory served me right, but I'm paraphrasing, so you get the idea. So this young practitioner came in to this Zen teacher who headed up a monastery or a practice community, and the person was saying, the new person was saying, I'm I'm here to be committed to the practice. How long do you think it'll take to become enlightened? And the Zen teacher says 10 years. And the students is like, 10 years? Like, that's a really long time. And then the teacher says, let me think, for you, that'll be 20 years. The student's like, 20 years? Like, wow. Like, that's really a lot of time. And then the teacher says, sorry. Actually, that'll be 30 years. And so you can see how the more the student bought into this reality of time and distance, the more the teacher doubled down on the number of years. Because that's the way of things, right? The more we give our attention to something, the more it grows in our experience, the more it flavors our reality of experience and our reality of living. And so the Zen teacher knew this, right? So it's this wonderful little story that teaches us about questioning our relationship with time. And in this topic, it's so perfect because I imagine without the teacher even thinking all this through and simply responding with these answers, there's this sense that the more the young student locked himself into this paradigm of time, the farther away the paradigm of freedom, of liberation, became. And so there's that direct tie that the teacher is illustrating in his responses or her responses that shows us that the doorway to freedom is a doorway into a paradigm that's not based in organizing around time and distance. Space, distance, and time. And so that's why there's so many pointers to this sense of here and now. But even here and now seems in some way to be like a certain point in space and a certain point in time. And that's a great doorway because we can rest into what that paradigm perceives of as here. We can take a seat on our cushion. We can sit here and we can sit now. But it's important to move beyond that doorway, beyond those pointers to here and now, into even letting go of those references. Letting go of reference to here and now in a way that drops us into what I like to call isness or beingness. It's not being here or being now in what I'm referring to. Unless you take on that overlay of mind. Oh, I'm being here, I'm being now. But then when you peel off that overlay, it's simpler. It's being without reference to here. It's being without reference to now. And then that referencing can relax out of its assertions and give way to a different sense of abiding or stopping. That is a kind of abiding and stopping that can even take place as we're active. You know, there can be a sense of self that is absent, that is not actively referencing selfhood or past or future, and yet we can be active. And people see this a lot in activities that they become absorbed in. You know, like you might become really absorbed in painting or you know, anything, you know, writing, or the other day, believe it or not, I was was that today or yesterday? I was super absorbed in spreadsheets, you know, so calculating numbers. But we can be so absorbed in something that there's that experience of losing track of time, not referencing time, not, you know, even probably referencing where we are, because we're so absorbed in that. And we also lose that sense of referencing ourselves, lose referencing self-concerns, judgments, narratives, and all of that. And so that's why I think we as human beings love connecting with that intimacy of being and being absorbed in something, is because there is that kind of forgetting of selfhood. And yet in meditation, we have that opportunity to do that more consciously and intentionally, you could say, to intentionally step out of selfhood into a simplicity of being that's not only us, a sense of oneself as an individual, dissolving into the moment, but there's also a sense of our consciousness opening to the whole of the moment. And so it's as though when we abide in isness or simply being, the whole world abides in that through us.